Hello, folks. Welcome to Dreaming How's YouTube channel. On today's episode, I will be featuring a new segment called the GOAT Series. And this is a thing I've always wanted to do and go through each position in the NFL. And I'm going to be doing coaching also. And we're going to go through each episode of who the best player is at their position. So the way I structure this is I'm going to pick five guys in the conversation. We're going to have an honorable mention and have our number one guy at the end of the episode. There is no ranking just to make it easier for folks so there's no more bickering. So we make it all adjusted. And for today's episode, I have our punting expert, Zach Brazick, who has been on the channel before, the Cleveland Browns fan, number one Browns fan I know. So, Zach, thank you for joining on.
Oh, of course. Thank you for having me on. I love those punters. Big special teams guy. Um, yeah, like as a Browns fan, I know what it takes to have good punting because when you don't have offense for a decade, you need good punting. And a punter can help the defense even more than a good offense sometimes. So, yeah,
We can. So
happy to
would
be
you
on.
like, yeah, would you like to give a lecture of the punting, sir?
I would love to. So obviously, a punter is they come out on fourth down, they're 14 yards behind the long snapper. They got to take that snap and they gotta do what they can with it. You want a good punt, you obviously want yardage, but you also need a good angle on the punt so that your punt team can get to the returner, cause a lot of fair catches, make it easier to down a punt like at the 5 yard line.
Mhm.
Um, as a punter, sometimes a snap is high, a snap is right, a snap is left. You got to be able to take those in and get the punt off quickly. A lot of punters too will hold field goals, will do some fakes, obviously. And two big stats for punters I always got to look at is your percentage of punts that are inside the 20-yard line, because that is the goal of a punter. If you are anywhere near midfield, you want it to be inside the 20. You want it to be better than just kicking it as hard as you can. Because sometimes as a punter, you don't want to kick it as long as you can. You want to kick a little 38-yard punt to like the 5 yard line sometimes. And it's not always like the 60-yard punts that get it done. You want to keep it out of the end zone. You got to be able to have good arc on your ball. And that is my biggest things when I look at punters.
Now, question for punter wise, is it good for a punter to kick the laces or no lace?
It kind of depends on the spin, but
Okay.
in most cases, you don't want the laces. You just
Okay.
want to drop it either. Well, some people drop it on the side, but
Mhm.
well, and like for 80 years is all anyone did. Now some people drop it like that, which is a little different. Mostly the um, uh, people from like New Zealand and Australia have been doing that recently.
What I've seen in these playoffs so far from these NFL playoff games is some of the punters they get the ball and they kind of almost start about to run and then they punt the ball.
Yeah. That is also kind of new. Punters are kind of getting a little more crafty. In college, that's a little more common. Punts are a little more weird in college. They're not as smooth movements. And once again, it's a lot of people from like different countries, more global punting. It's a different style. They have more of a soccer background usually. So like
Mhm.
a soccer goalie takes different steps. It's not just like a traditional punter is you just take three really quick steps. And Aussie kind of stand to the side, a little more of a swing kick. So definitely two
Mhm.
different punting games the last 5-10 years. Definitely.
All right, let's start off with our honorable mention here. On the honorable mention, me and Zach have come up with Yale Larry. Yale Larry is on the
Nice
honorable
one.
mention. He played 11 seasons with the Detroit Lions, three first-time All-Pros, two second-team All-Pros, three-time NFL champion, nine Pro Bowls. He was inducted to the NFL 50s All-Decade team. He had over 503 punts, 22,279 punting yards. What do you
Heck
make
of
of
a
this,
pick
Zach?
here. Heck of a pick for honorable mention. I could see him sliding to 5 or 4, but I think this is kind of a sign of the times. He did play a while ago, but it's good that we have him here. Yeah, good old Yale Larry. People always just think of Ray Guy really when you think of old punters, but Yale Larry was even before that. He didn't play as long as a lot of punters did back then,
No.
but he
Yeah.
had some amazing years. He had some like 47 to 48 yard punt average years, which back then was really unheard of outside of once again Ray Guy.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean the Lions. I don't really know how good they were back in the 50s, but um, definitely was a heck of a player and a pioneer for the position.
And to also give more acknowledgement for Yale Larry, his average per punt was 44.3 yards, and he was also a three-time punting leader, and he was inducted to the Hall of Fame in 1979.
Yeah, and very I mean, he's very worthy of those honors, definitely. Back then, there weren't really many people who only punted, and Neil Larry basically only punted. I think he played like running back like every like once or twice a year, but he basically only punted, and that he was one of the first people to do that and have good success for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, Yale Larry, he's definitely a great one of the greatest punters of all time. Definitely deserves to be recognized for honorable mention at least. All right,
Definitely.
let's head to our another. This is not in the honorable mention, but we are not breaking this, so this is a guy in our conversation, but we prefer him to be lower. So to start out with, we have Pat McAfee. Now, folks, most people know him for his Pat McAfee show on YouTube, mostly for the Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays. That's what we know, and I know him for. This guy played 8 seasons with the Colts. He has one first team All Pro, two Pro Bowls. He did set records. He set the NFL record for the highest career net average punting yards, 41.1. He had over 575 punts. His punting yards were 26,669 punting yards. His punting average was 46.4. And his longest punt ever, 74 yards. And he did go to the Super Bowl, but he did not win that. That was against the Saints with Drew Brees.
Yes, that was like
That
probably his rookie year.
yes.
Probably. Yeah.
And he also made the all rookie team. And for as Zach always likes to know of how many times they get inside the 20,
Mhm.
193 times he got inside the 20. What do you make of this, Zach?
Pat McAfee, when you think of great punters, he is one of the most hard guys to rank because during his best year, which actually was his very last year, he kind of retired during his prime. That was probably the best punting season ever. That's where he had that 74 yarder, a couple amazing fake punts. He had an
Mhm.
incredible that one year, but he only played 8 years for a punter, and obviously it's worked out for him. Crazy
Yeah.
good. I don't really like his shows, but most people do. I mean, he had the best punting year ever. He was electric. I mean, yeah, so 100 and how many inside 193 punts inside the
Yeah.
20s. Yeah, that's about one and a half a game. And he
hmm
was on a pretty good team with Andrew Luck most of the time, so
Yeah.
they probably didn't even punt that much.
Yeah.
Um, Heck of a player. He definitely got really good arc on his punts. I mean, and for something else folks might not know out there is net average punting versus just punt average. So the net is after the punt returner runs it back. So say you punt it 50 yards and he returns it 10 yards. It's a punt of 50, but the net is 40. So his
hmm
net average being only basically 5 yards less than his average punting is amazing. How he only gave up 5 yards a punt return on average. That's pretty incredible.
hmm
That's pretty rare to see. Anything under 6 is very rare. So
hmm I always give him credits, especially like the key ideas he had with a punt, or like if he was going to be kickoff. Sometimes they put him in there. Like he was very like he had a he was very smart of how he wanted to punt the ball. He knew what he wanted to do, and he would just get it over and right side for like the defense for the Colts to take over. Like he did the job well, and he helped bail out like Peyton Manning for a little bit and Andrew Luck for most of the time. He helped bail those guys out, especially the Colts when they had no idea how to like if or like they were at the their own 5 yard line and they have to try and get over like the 50-yard line. He would get that job done where most punters cannot, and that is something that we need for NFL teams to have. I know my guy for punters, we've had that recently, but in general, we've never had that. Usually, we have an average guy who doesn't do well. Zach, I don't know about for the Browns of like how much the punter has done well for your position.
We've had some decent ones. We have Corey Bajorquez now. We had Andy Lee, who in my opinion, is a top 10 probably punter all time. We had him for a few years. That was really great. I kind of forget who we had during like Baker's good year, but our punting's usually been okay.
Mhm.
Like like early 2010s, it was really, really good though, for sure.
All right, let's move on to our next guy, which is Johnny Hecker. Guy I always love watching whenever the punts come out. This is the guy I always like to watch. Played 10 seasons with the Rams and the Panthers and is still active. He signed a 2 3 year deal, I believe, with the Panthers just last year after he won the Super Bowl with the Rams. But this guy's appeared in two Super Bowls. The first one was against the Rams Patriots back when Jared Goff was the quarterback. And then there was last year, especially with the Rams and the Bengals game, as everyone remembers. But he's a one-time Super Bowl champion. He is a four-time first-team All-Pro, two-time second-team All-Pro, and a four-time Pro Bowler, and a 2010s All-Decade team, along with his NFL records: highest net average punting yards in a season, 46; longest punt in a Super Bowl, 65 yards;
Yep.
two-time punting leader. His stats, folks: 808 punts as of right now, 37,876 punting yards. His average punt was 46.9. And to keep going with the stats, he has inside the 20, is punting inside the 20 329 times. And he's still active in the NFL, folks. This guy is unbelievable whenever you watch him. Even as an NFL fan, this guy is unbelievable how many times you would see, especially in the Super Bowl, where he was from his own 20 and somehow got to the 5 yard line of that. Zach, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Johnny Hecker. I think that Super Bowl 53 against Patriots, probably one of the most famous games ever for a punter because he had that 65 yarder. He had a punt down to like 5. That was like, the ugliest Super Bowl ever. It was like a game straight out of the 1950s, which was,
Yep.
it was kind of fun. And Hecker, if the Rams somehow won, he really could have been the MVP. Um, I mean, yeah, he's still playing. I can't believe he's only played for 10 years. Feels like it's been longer, but to be
Yes.
first team or second team All Pro 6 out of those 10, when punters now average more yards than ever, really, that's really impressive. Um, I feel like you're probably not going to hear from him as much now that he's on the Panthers, just because no one really watches the Panthers.
No.
But he did have a really solid year. Um, Not his best, but still very solid, and I definitely see at least 5 more years out of him. Just a classic style, great form, and like you said, the highest net average in NFL history in a year. So that's obviously pretty remarkable.
All right, let's move on to our next person, which this guy, I don't know how he played this long. He played 22 seasons in the NFL. I don't know how. And that man is named is Sean Landeta. Sean Landeta played 22 seasons with the New York Giants, the Rams, the Buccaneers, my team, the Green Bay Packers, yay,
That's
what's wrong
good.
with that, and the Philadelphia Eagles, folks. He is a two-time Super Bowl champion, three first-team All-Pro, two Pro Bowls. He was named to the 80s and 90s All-Decade team for the NFL. Some of his stats: 1,401 punts, 60,707 punting yards. His average is 43.3 per average punt. What are your thoughts on this, Zach?
Sean Landetta, the Tom Brady of punters, mostly known for Giants and Eagles. I know he was a proud Packer too. Um, yeah, I mean, basically, to me, he's like the Frank Gore of punters. Like, he never
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, but he just did it for 22 years in a row. Um, he definitely he won a lot. He was on some good teams. I think he was a lefty punter, and he's probably the only lefty on this list. I'm pretty sure.
I
So
believe
that's
so.
something. Um, Lefty punters are kind of rare. Um, I don't have much to say about him. His longevity is just incredible, and probably the best punter in the '80s and maybe the '90s. So good for you, Sean.
Yeah, I definitely see the comparison for Frank Gore. I mean, this guy, phenomenal time of him of like playing his career, 22 seasons. You don't really see that in any like majority of an NFL player. You rarely see that.
No.
You you could see us the holder for your kicking team, be it for 25 years. No one cares who that guy is. This guy has a job and he does it. This is incredible. He won 2 Super Bowls, which is amazing to see because you rarely see a punter win 2 Super Bowls or win many of anything. Usually he's helping the worst team in the league and help them out. He's usually the MVP for those teams, but he won a Super Bowl ring, and that is what we have to give him for. Plus the stats of a 43.3 average punt. That's amazing. Usually we don't. Usually the average, I believe it's like 40 yards. I believe, Zach. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
like 40, 41 is pretty
Okay.
standard. Yeah,
Okay.
kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would still. He did a 43.3 average for
For
22
yeah,
years.
20 years. Yeah. So
For 22 years. That's amazing. That is an amazing accomplishment. All right. Let's head to our next guy, which this guy also played very long. He played
yeah,
over 18 seasons. This one, I think more fans will be particular and maybe know of him more. And it might be the best puncher for the Raiders. He might be or may not. We'll find out at the end, folks.
yeah,
Find out. All right. So that man is named Shane Leckler. Thank
that's
you.
one.
Played 18 seasons with the Raiders and the Texans. So Texans fans, if you're out there, you're very happy.
Ooh,
He is a 6 first-team All-Pro, 3 second-team All-Pros, 7 Pro Bowls, 4-time punting yards leader, Golden Toe Award, 2000s and 2010s All-Decade Team. What did you make of this, Zach?
Shane Leckler. I mean, I feel like a lot of people do know him, but still, there should be more people who know him. I'd like to mention I am a Browns fan. The reason I got the Raiders uni, this is Jerry Rice jersey, I got for $5, is they
Yeah.
have had the best punters ever. If you look at their history, they have Shane Leckler, we'll start with, or we'll talk about one more soon.
Yep.
Marquette King, too, was one of the most popular punters in the league for a handful of years. Shane Leckler, just he did it for so long. His last year, he was pretty good with the Texans too. Most people know him as just a Raider.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Texan for 5 years. His last year, he was 42, averaged 49 yards a punt. So he could have kept playing to like Brady levels, if not more. It was always great. He holds the record for
He holds the
career.
highest, yes.
Yeah.
Which I'll get to in a minute.
And one more random fun fact about Shane Leckler is he held field goals for Sebastian Janikowski for a long time, and he held it with his non-dominant hand because Seabass was a lefty kicker, so Shane Leckler had to hold the field goals with his non-dominant hand for over a decade, which is pretty hard to do as well. I can't really do anything with my left hand, so
I can't either.
little fun fact.
Yeah. Oh, to give more statistics and more awards about Shane Leckler is he was nominated on the 100th anniversary team for the NFL all time. And as Zach mentioned, he has the NFL record for the highest career average punting yards per punt, 47.6. His stats, folks: 1,444 punts, 68,678 punting yards, 47.6 average punt, and 469 of those were inside the 20-yard line, which is very impressive. I have to give him there. 19 kickoffs he also did. He sometimes did kickoffs and be the kicker. He had over 1,210 kickoff yards. He was 7 for 7 on extra points, folks.
Look at that. When you need me there.
That's the one thing I always find interesting with Shane. Is he was known for his punting, but you never knew. Like sometimes he went out there for extra points or did the kickoffs. That's something I never knew of him. I always known him for the punting.
Yeah, definitely a bonus. It's definitely a bonus with punters if he can kick off. And we probably should have said that for Pat McAfee. He was an incredible kickoff.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's get to our last person here, which I know Zach's a huge fan of this guy, who recently passed away. And
rest in peace.
Rest in peace. This man is named Ray Guy. Played 14 seasons with the Raiders. He won three Super Bowls, 6 first-team All-Pro, 2 second-team All-Pro, 7 Pro Bowls, Golden Toe Award, 70 in the 1970s All-Decade Team for the NFL, the 75th and 100th anniversary team. So he made back-to-back of the anniversary team, and His stats, folks: 1,049 punts. His punting yards: 44,493 punting yards. 42.4 average per punt. His longest punt ever, 74 yards. And the most interesting fact I like to give him here: he had a streak of 619 consecutive punts before having one blocked, folks. So imagine you're punting for your career and it's 619 just for you to get blocked.
That's
That's
like
very rare.
that's like 6 or 7 years in a row. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the interesting thing I always find of him, of like nowadays you'll see more blocking, I would say, for like special teams, because you'll see like something get batted away or like a bad punt occurs or almost gets blocked or tipped.
Mhm.
Ray Guy, he did the impossible that nobody could do. He did that, and that's just amazing. And Zach's favorite statistic here of inside the 20-yard line is 210 punts inside the 20-yard line. Incredible, folks. Incredible. That's where I give him the praise. And he had 128 touchbacks, played in 207 consecutive games, and he was inducted into the Hall of Fame 2014. And the most very interesting fact that everyone should know: he's the only punter in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yes. And it took him like 25 years to get there. I'm very happy he did. I remember when he did, it was 2014, and he gave a nice little speech. Great moment. I am a huge Ray Guy fan, partially why I'm here today, partially why I care about punting. I hold his autograph now as he is up above with great pride. Ray Guy, there's so many things you can say about Ray Guy. I mean, just the all 70s team, the 600 and some odd punts without a block. That also includes, bad snaps. And also the thing Ray Guy did more than anyone, which I mentioned before before we got into the players, is his arc on his punts was just incredible. Like the punt returner would always just have the fair catch. He hit a couple like scoreboards, I know, like a couple times. His arc on his punts was just incredible. And it was like 40 years before anyone even was kind of close to his level for that. And Ray Guy's best moment definitely came in one of his 3 Super Bowl victories where he was fielding a punt and the punt went like way over his head. He snatched it, jumped up, snatched it like that, and it was like way up in the air. He invented the Odell, as I
Odell. Oh
said.
my
He
goodness.
invented the Odell, and he proceeded to punt that punt 51 yards. 51 yards. Back then, if you punted 50 yards, like your name would be in the papers. He had to jump up, barely get it, and he still punted 51 yards in the Super Bowl, which they won. Ray Guy he just is punting. He is the guy, pun intended, and love him. Rest in peace to an absolute goat.
I believe that in play, what you just mentioned, will go down as one of the greatest plays in NFL history. It's probably not better than the Franco Harris one, which rest in peace, Franco, but it's one of the best plays ever. And the no appreciation for punters, like you need a punter, as we mentioned on this list. The punter will help you out of getting out of a bad situation. Because if you're a high school punter, and most people, if you're a high school football team, you just hope they get to the 50-yard line at this point, because the punt would not go that far. It would maybe go 20 yards at least. I don't know, Zach. You played football in high school. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I didn't punt. I punted in middle school. I didn't punt in high school. I had 1 or 2 40-yarders. So I was, yeah, I was okay.
I think I had a 40-yard punt in my combine. If I can remember exactly. I think I had a 40.
Yeah.
That was for my combine, so I did that. So yeah.
Yeah.
But as we wrap here of the list, just to go again, our honorable mention is E.L. Larry. He played an incredible career. And now it comes down to these 4 people of who we have as our GOAT for this episode, as punters to start out this opening series for us as our pilots, for goodness sake. Pat McAfee, Johnny Hecker, Sean Ladena, Ray Guy, and Shane Leckler. Zach, who do you have as your ultimate GOAT for
It's
punting?
all up to me. Now, I was losing sleep last night thinking about this because for me, I mean, it's simple for me. You either got Ray Guy, you either got like your classic started punting, or Shane Leckler. Just like nothing really like flashy, but just such a solid punter, Shane Leckler. Both Raiders most of their career. I am gonna, even though it pains me, say that Shane Leckler is the best punter of all time, just for what he did when he was like
Oh,
40 some years old. But really, I think it's like a tie. I think that they're both the best. Ray Guy and Shane Leckler are light years above these two. Ray Guy's my favorite, but I think Shane Leckler, just his consistency was just incredible. And I did actually get to watch him play, so that does factor in for me a little.
I mean,
How about you?
mine comes down to two Raiders here. We have Leckler and Ray Guys. I was mentioning of you. I was thinking about this also. I'll give the Raiders this credit. The only thing they ever do good is draft good punters. They have great punters in their franchise history. That's the only thing they ever do well. But the thing with Shane Leckler, he was very consistent and he played a lot more years than Ray Guy. But Ray Guy, he put phenomenal plays on those punts. He did fantastic things. I never grew up watching him. Me and Zach are the same age. We grew up watching Shane Leckler. He was also awesome to watch. And Shane was fantastic with the Texans in his last couple years. But Ray Guy, he just was a phenomenal guy when you watch highlight tapes when you can on YouTube or wherever you could find them. It was incredible to see how he did those punts, how he figured out, okay, let me get this right of the arc of the ball, get it there, and get it to the team and help this team win the Super Bowl. And he did that 3 times. He helped the team win it 3 times. And as Zach mentioned, his Odell, he invented the Odell first, as
He
right on
did.
here. He
He
did invented Odell, and he still kicked the ball. He punted that ball 50 yards over. He punted it over 50 yards, and that's the incredible thing. So I will give it to Ray Guy here as my official GOAT, and he's just incredible. I just can't believe if I have it, like I would take these, but I would take all of them on my team of like for punter wise. But
like,
Ray Guy, when you need a perfectionist, you need the guy to get the job done, and you need him and not have any screw ups. Ray Guy is my guy, as a pun intended,
ah,
and he will help me get there, especially where he played in 207 consecutive games, as I mentioned. Only punter into the Hall of Fame, which will probably be Shane Leckler soon, but
should be.
the
Yeah.
way he did this is just amazing to see if his accomplishments. He was one of the most dominating punters of his time. Over 6 first-team All Pros. This is incredible to me. I have to give it to Ray Guy here just because of how much dominant he was at his position as a punter and helped his team win games. And he always helped them out and was fantastic in putting in touchbacks sometimes for kickoff and inside the 20. That was unbelievable to me. So I have Ray Guy as my goat, folks.
Yes. And I am very happy you said Ray Guy. I'm happy we got to talk about Leckler and Ray Guy because I think those are the only two you can really make any case for. You
Mhm.
know, Leckler was just like he just did his job, like then but Ray Guy just like did it with a little more swagger and a little more lasting legacy. So I'm happy we have to talk about both of them. They both should be in the Hall of Fame for sure. If Ray Guy is, Leckler should be. Raiders, amazing job with their punters.
Exactly.
I don't. Oh wait, they had a Pro Bowler this year too. AJ Cole.
Yes,
Yeah,
AJ Cole.
for the Raiders. I mean, come on.
Exactly. I this is what I always like to go with NFL teams of what are they known for in building positions? Like I go my team of quarterbacks, Raiders, punters.
Punters
That's the
and
thing with the Raiders.
Seabass too. Yeah,
Hmm.
special teams. Special teams.
That's what they're really known for, and that's where I give the Raiders a bunch of credit. But they have to focus on the other things. They have to focus on the more important things. But they appreciate the
Exactly.
underappreciated positions. But you
Exactly.
got to figure out the whole team so you can come as a whole thing. And you
Exactly.
maybe won a Super Bowl if you didn't get rid of John Gruden. So
Exactly. Leckler too, I want to say, was also a Texan for 5 great years. He was not just a Raider, but mostly, mostly.
all right, folks. Just a recap of this episode with me and Zach here. Zach, I appreciate you coming on for our punting specialist here on this episode for the GOAT series, episode 1, Punters, greatest punter of all time. As we mentioned, Yale Larry is our honorable mention. Guys that were in conversation, Pat McAfee, Johnny Hecker, Sean Ladetta, were considerable for the position, but for us, me and Zach, we came down to Shane Leckler and Ray Guy. Zach went with Shane, even though he's a huge Ray Guy fan. I
Yeah.
went with Ray Guy because I love what he did on that field and his position. And that's the thing that will stand out to me is how dominant he did and his work ethic and how he did not give up and he played 207 consecutive games. So
Like, because there's going to be a lot of punters who, average 47 yards a punt, but there's never going to be another Ray guy. That's
they
for
will
sure.
never be. They will never be. Folks, that will do another edition, another episode of J.M. Handler's YouTube channel of the sports. Folks, just to make sure, if you haven't already, please leave a like on this video. Appreciate it. And who is your GOAT? Who is your GOAT of punters? Who do you think should have been mentioned in the list? Who is your honorable mention? Leave it in the chat. And if you haven't already, go subscribe to the channel.
Leave a comment. I will be replying paragraphs to every comment on who's a punting goat. Paragraphs. Thank you. Thank you again, Charmy.
No problem. So you have Zach as he's me your analysis here, what your comment's going to be here. And Zach, is that cards for sale of that Ray guy or will never be?
Oh, sadly, never. Never.
Never. Okay.
Let's go,
Okay.
Ray.
All right, folks. But that will do, as I mentioned again, another edition of the German Have a YouTube channel. And for our next episode, we will be still continuing with special teams. I will probably be doing either kickers or punt kickoff returners. So I'll probably be doing kickers as our next episode. Folks, thank you again. Have a great day. Have a good one, folks.
Thank you.